It's great to have attorney Mike Papantonio back on the program. He is also co-host of Ring of Fire, airing alongside us on Free Speech TV now. Hugely exciting. Pap, I know you've been following the very obvious Republican insider desire to get Donald Trump out of the race. We talked about this meeting that took place, discussions of, well, maybe we could force him out before the primaries, or maybe at the convention, or maybe delegates could turn against him. And it just so happens that after the last debate, we see a much more humble, conciliatory Donald Trump saying, no, I will definitely run as a Republican. I'm not looking to go outside of this party that I've grown to like so much. What do you think is going on here?
Well, two parts to the life. First of all, he hates the Republican Party. Second of all, he will run outside the party. He's just look. He came into this office. Came into this race with just reckless abandon. And it's easy to win with reckless abandon, David. When you have nothing to lose, you're willing to say everything. You're willing to appeal to the lowest hanging fruit. It's easy. Okay, but then you reach that glass ceiling, and he's reached that glass ceiling. The glass ceiling is you still have to deal with the establishment, and that is where he is. And he's in a tough situation because he's not going anywhere past here.
So what's the advantage to, if he indeed is willing to go outside of the Republican Party and run as an independent, as you suggest he is, and I think that he probably is still willing to do as well, what's the short-term advantage to saying, no, these Republicans are great and I'm committed to the Republican Party? What does he gain by that?
Well, he gains a second look. Right now, they haven't even given him a second look. They're focused on the inane statements that they believe are really destroying their entire party. This is, you have Trump hanging around their neck. So now he's taking a second look. He's saying, well, do I have the ability to sit down with leadership and say, you know, I really am a candidate. Yes, I've said all this insane stuff, but I really am a candidate. I've got a year to discipline myself. I've got a year to go back into a new MO to where I'm really appealing more to the functional middle class as opposed to the low-hanging fruit that he's appealing to right now. So I call it a second look, and I saw the same thing you did. It was, yeah, he needs to appeal to leadership.
I've been saying from the beginning that Trump will not ultimately be the Republican nominee. I haven't had any sense of at what point he is going to go away. What's your sense now of, number one, how far you think he'll go, and what ultimately will cause his demise, if there will be one?
Well, I think at this point, the bigger contender to me is Ted Cruz. Is Cruz. I really see that. You know, everybody's paying so much attention to Donald Trump. And because of that attention that goes to Donald Trump, we believe he's legitimized. He's not legitimized. It's simply a function of corporate media trying to sell another advertisement segment. They know he sells. Ted Cruz doesn't sell quite as well. But Ted Cruz right now, while you've had Trump out with his crazy talk campaign, you've had Ted Cruz methodically, well, he's saying crazy stuff too, don't get me wrong, but you've had Ted Cruz out there methodically building a base. The evangelical base for Cruz is huge. It is absolutely huge. So all of a sudden, why is it that we have Ted Cruz, of all people, lending money to senator campaigns, lending money to congressional campaigns? Because he's getting the money and he's getting the grassroots support, and he's methodically been building state by state, while loudmouth out there has simply been giving us a sideshow. So I think Cruz is actually a bigger contender than Trump. Trump is entertainment. I still don't see him breaking through this thing that I'm calling the glass ceiling right now. They realize that Trump is death. You've had John Sununu come out, as a matter of fact, and say if Trump is the nominee, then we lose the presidency, we lose the House, and we lose the Senate. And what Sununu was actually saying was this whole thing hangs around our neck. There are some things, David, you can't get away from. There's some statements that are so deplorable that you simply can't get away from. There's some acts that make you appear to be such a fascist that you don't turn that around in a matter of months. You just simply can't do that. He has branded, honestly, when is the last time you've been at this business a long time, you have felt comfortable saying, yes, this presidential candidate is a fascist?
It's been a while for sure. I mean, and the term is thrown around by a lot of people, and often they don't
Yeah,
really understand what fascism
yeah.
is. And you know, I read an interesting piece which said, listen, we can't yet say Donald Trump is a fascist, but many of the ideas he's suggesting are reminiscent of fascist dictators, and that's what really should be a concern. But the bigger concern is we've had candidates who say this stuff for a while. They just don't usually get this much traction. That's really the scary thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but David, to me, it's really not just the statement. If you really analyze fascism, I am, look, I'm one of those people that is not afraid to equate Donald Trump with fascism. Look, the last shoe to fall for it was as far as a fascist description of Donald Trump is to have the industrialists, have the corporatists come in and saying, you know what, Donald, our money is behind you. He's dominated. He has absolutely dominated the media. He's dominated the money aspect of all this. He has the groundswell of that charisma that a true fascist movement needs. Whatever reason, he has that charisma with Joe the plumber types. He has all of these parts, and to say that we can't call it that, I think, is very short-sighted. We as progressives are very afraid to throw around terms like that because the argument is, well, it's just intellectually dishonest. He's there really is no equation, nothing equivalent to Berlin in 1933, but there is, and it's the same equivalency we saw with Berlusconi in Italy. It's the same equivalence we saw with Mussolini in Italy. You can't, to me, one time I interviewed Howard Zinn before his death. Actually, I interviewed him twice. Both times in the interview, he said, we are reticent to call it what it is. And that's what we have working here.
I would love to talk a little bit now about the corporate media element in all of this. I was just reading today, although on the national level, Bernie Sanders has far more support than Donald Trump does nationally, right? Not within their respective parties, that Donald Trump has received 23 times the corporate media coverage than has Bernie Sanders. And further, when you compare the ideas of Sanders to Trump, you see that the idea, for example, of banning Muslim travel to the U.S. is by and large not a popular idea nationally. And most of Bernie Sanders' ideas, although often portrayed as extremist far-left ideas, have significant support among the Americans. So talk a little bit about the impact and responsibility that corporate media has had here.
Well, corporate media does not want a Bernie Sanders elected because they are, the equivalency is they are Wall Street. We have a very difficult time with this transition, David, the transition that we don't have Ed Murrow anymore. We don't have Walter Cronkite. We don't have the great journalist anymore. We have nothing more than a Wall Street entity. We have a character on the 50th floor that's making decisions, some MBA that decides what's the direction of our business. There's no responsibility in journalism. So naturally, a corporation is going to say, what kinship do we possibly have with Bernie Sanders, who proclaims that he's a socialist, who proclaims that we have to pay more taxes, who argues that corporatism in America is destroying us, who says that Wall Street needs to be investigated. What do we have in common? The average person out there has no notion, has no vision of what corporate media really is. They don't equate corporate media with Wall Street, but it is. ABC, NBC, CBS, they're no more than an extension of Wall Street. And so what we see them doing is exactly what we would expect. ABC, for example, 81 minutes that they give to Trump, 1 minute that they give to Bernie Sanders. They want Bernie Sanders to disappear.
Last thought on this, I would love to just hear from you. How far do you think Trump will go? What will ultimately happen?
Well, I think he's going to get beat, I think, in the first couple of primaries. Then he's going to start negotiating, I believe, he's going to start negotiating with leadership, convincing them that he's the only person who can beat Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, as you've heard me say, I think is a sitting duck. And oddly enough, Trump has the kind of voice that appeals to more Americans than Hillary Clinton does. Trump can beat Hillary Clinton. That's what's so awfully scary about this. Cruz has less of a chance of beating Hillary Clinton. So I think he's going to start talking some logic in his mind to leadership. And we're going to see him not do so well in the first couple of primaries, but he's going to do much better as he goes along.
All right, attorney Mike Papantonio, co-host of Ring of Fire. Check it out on Free Speech TV. Pap, always great to have you on.
David, thank you, and thank you for letting us share your information on Ring of Fire. Our viewers love it.
That's right. The new website, trofire.com, which is just a fantastic aggregation of so much of the great progressive news going on. Thanks, Pap.
Thank you. Bye-bye.